Welcome to Cutoff Genes, the podcast that helps you find your truth using nothing but DNA. I'm Julie Dixon Jackson, and I'm a genetic genealogist, henceforth known as a Gen Genie.
And I am Richard Castle, the producer, and today, the solo co-host again.
Woo! Side saddle.
I'm riding side saddle, whatever that means. No, I'm riding...
Sidecar, side saddle,
It's
side...
shotgun, riding shotgun, I found out.
I like
Which
side
I also
saddle.
have never done. I've never ridden side saddle or shotgun. Of
You've
course.
ridden shotgun. Riding shotgun is just sitting in the passenger seat.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Oh, I always thought it was like when you're in that little thing next to a motorcycle, that little small car that you sit next to.
I think that's shotgun too, but I think... Wait, what's that called?
I don't know, but one of my favorite gags is from a Marx Brothers movie. And they do it over and over again where Groucho gets on this motorcycle and then and at one point the little sidecar takes off and he can't move.
That's
Maybe
good.
it's a sidecar. I could use a sidecar too.
That is what it is. It's called a sidecar.
I know, but that's a cocktail.
It's named after that.
Oh my God. Whatever. I'm the solo co-host
Hey, let's
today.
talk about genetic genealogy. Wow. Well, that really warmed everybody up, I bet. Okay, so yes, we don't have Renee today, but we have Rich, which is just as sweet.
Oh, well, we love you, Renee. We'll see you soon.
The first thing I have is a big thank you for our Aussie listener, Janine Bell.
Okay.
She listened to the episode where I talked about the Long Gully murder, my second.
Yes.
And she sent me a little link this morning that said, have you had a chance to look at the inquest from that case? There's an actual 16-page inquest that is available to download.
How did she know about this?
Because she's Australian and she knows stuff.
Oh.
Well,
I mean, where was this? Because you found your information.
It was from the Public Record Office of Victoria. Oh. And I've not really looked into that because I don't know what to look for or how to look for it.
Right.
So thank you so much, Janine. Very interesting. Wasn't anything really new, except for the fact that my second great-grandmother had to cut her testimony short because she was feeling ill.
Okay.
And I believe she was feeling ill because her dead sister-in-law was in the room. They had the body of the sister-in-law in the room where the inquest and all the witnesses were.
Why would they do that?
I think that's just how it works because they have to identify the body.
Oh, my God.
I know.
That sounds horrific.
I know. Yeah. But again, there was once again no mention of the son that had died a month before. Nowhere. And in fact, they did talk about her going to somebody else's tent the night before she was killed because there was a dead child there and she was going there to make mourning.
So they mentioned some random dead child.
Rando.
But not her dead child.
Wow. Yeah. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
I'm so very confused. Man, I wish I could time travel.
I know, right? There's more to this story, but it's sort of lost to history because all you have are the official documents, right? There's no living... What
Right.
year was this?
1861.
Yeah, there's no living person that could tell you, oh,
Clearly
I was
not.
at the inquest and I remember the dead child.
They mentioned they just didn't put it in the notes.
Because that's how you talk when you're 180 years old.
Not if you're Australian, though, so you're way off.
Oh, my God, forget it. I'm doing like the Wild West. You're mentioning tents.
Well, it was the Wild West.
Yeah.
I mean, it basically, kids died all the time.
Sure.
People were murdered. People lived in tents.
Yeah. It's like Los Angeles now. People are murdered. People live in tents. It really hasn't. Times haven't changed that much.
That's so true. Thank you so much to Janine. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Janine.
Thanks, Janine. I have a question for you.
Uh-oh.
And it's more of an opinion thing. And if the listeners want to chime in after they hear this, please do so. I'm working a case right now. And the information that the adoptee was given, and it's quite detailed. It describes both of her parents and, but the mother is listed as 5'10".
Okay.
And she was athletic. They were both in college at the time. And the father is listed as 6'7".
Okay.
And he was a basketball player, obviously.
I was just going to say.
Right. And that's all well and good, except for the adoptee is 5'2". Something doesn't add up.
Well, Here's what I think. There's always recessive genes, right? We talked about this where somebody has a different, eye color or hair color or whatever it may be, and if something skips a generation or whatever, you have 4 kids and 3 of them look just like you and one looks nothing like you. So I wonder, is height one of those? And I'm only asking the question because I don't know scientifically. Is that possible?
So I think it's possible. I don't think it is statistically probable.
Right.
If there was maybe dwarfism down the line or something that could be recessive, I don't know. I'm not a scientist, everybody. But I mean, dwarfism has a specific look, and she doesn't have it.
Right.
And she's also 5'2". She's not tiny.
Right. But that's her mom was 5'10".
Yes.
So that's tall for a woman.
Well, and that was where the confusion lay with me, with mine, because my mother was 5'9.5".
Right.
Or is 5'9.5". She's probably shrunk. And my supposed father, who she thought was my father, she said 5'10" or 5'11", but he was actually 6'2".
Right.
So when I found him, that was one of the things I was like,
I remember this.
Yeah.
We talked about it on the podcast. Yeah.
So fast forward to finding out who my actual father was. He was 5'6".
Right.
That makes so much more sense.
Well, again, I mean, there's either a mistake on that document that she received as far as the amount, like 6'7", that's unlikely. I mean, there's not that many people that are 6'7". That's
he
an
would
anomaly.
stand out.
Right.
Right.
But,
so,
I don't know. My guess is, I'm
wondering if because I have noticed in documents that I've had, adoption documents or non-ID info that I've read, that some things are tweaked, and I think just to throw people off. Like somebody I found last week, the name was given as one name, but the actual name was a different name that rhymes with it.
Oh, wow.
That happens a lot.
Right.
In this case, there were also other things that were said that, and I believe I've zeroed in on who I think it is. It's like one of 2 people, the mother. And there is a circumstance in their family that would explain why a certain thing was written. I'm not going to obviously get into it because it's not my story to tell.
No, but you know what? I would be interested to hear how tall she is.
Oh, yeah.
And it would certainly be easy to weed out the father if there's a bunch of men who are like under 6 feet and there's one who's 6'7".
Well, and the family, here's the thing. She has a first cousin match on her paternal side, or what we think is her paternal side based on the records. And I spoke to the first cousin, or first cousin once removed, whatever he is, and I asked outright, I said, are there any abnormally tall people in your family? He's like, nope. I mean, they're tall, but there's nobody that's like.
I wonder now that I think about it, are basketball players, are they all children of very tall people, or are they just kind of like freakishly tall? And, I don't.
Yeah, that's a really good question,
I
actually.
remember hearing someone say, oh, well, my dad was a basketball player and now I'm a basketball player, and it's the opposite with me. My dad was a basketball player.
Right.
And I am certainly not.
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. I think when I think of, for some reason, I'm thinking about the Chinese basketball players that are abnormally tall, obviously, and then they show their parents and they're tiny.
Yeah, right?
But I think anybody looks tiny next to somebody who's 6'7".
Definitely.
Even someone who's 6 foot.
Well, I'm 6 foot tall, but I've seen people walk in and I'm like, oh my God, how do you get through life? How do you sit in a car?
Yeah.
Without, my head pretty much hits the roof of my car.
So I would think that if I were able to, they were supposed to be in college in a certain state, and I could go back and research. If it came down to it, it would take a lot longer, but I could go through all of the major colleges in this state and find out who played basketball that year and who was 6'7".
Right, but we're sort of making an assumption that anyone who's 6'7" plays basketball.
No, he did play basketball.
Oh, he did. Okay.
Yes, that's in the records. Don't come at me, tall people.
No, really, he must play. My grandmother used to say to me, "Oh, look how tall he is. It's a shame you don't play ball."
Just any kind of ball,
like your father.
Sorry, Grandma. It's not going to happen. Anyway, so if anybody has any input on that, I'm curious. I'm thinking by the time this airs, I will have solved this case. However,
well, then you'll have to update us all.
yeah, I can't wait.
Yes.
Okay, let's move on. Headlines in DNA.
Oh, there's so many. Oh, my God.
So many.
Every day, Julie, I look at the news and I'm like, I've got to send Julie this article. We could talk about it on the podcast.
Yeah.
But there's just so many.
So many. This is one that I bet you haven't heard about, and it's very interesting. In a competitive situation, ABC has landed Family History, giving a put pilot commitment to the drama project from writer Deborah Schoenman. So it's a pilot called Family History about DNA.
Oh.
And it's a put pilot, which means they bought it without even seeing the pilot. They bought a whole season.
Wow.
That's so they know what's happening in DNA right now.
Right.
And they want to get in front of it.
It's a hot topic.
It's a hot topic.
Just like that store in the mall.
Yeah.
That had everything in neon.
And now everything is black.
It's black.
And purple.
Yeah.
Right. So let me see. Penned by Schoenman, the hour-long family drama is inspired by the recent explosion of genetic genealogy testing. It follows a young tech reporter in the Bay Area whose life changes when she discovers a family secret via a DNA testing website. The show explores nature versus nurture. I love it. And how technology has caught up to our secrets. We may be the last generation to have secrets. Truer words were never spoken.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? That's fascinating. And Julie, with your background as an actress, I'm just going to say, people out there, anyone, you need to hire Julie for this show, either as a consultant or an on-air personality.
Right.
Because she is so good and she's so talented.
I know of which I speak most of the time, except for the heavy, deep scientific stuff.
No, but it's a marriage of like what you do. You know, your
I know. It's crazy, isn't it?
In acting, and then your background in your passion for genetic genealogy. So,
Yeah.
you know.
That's kind of like my dream job. Yeah.
And, you know, just in general, I think all the different networks and like Netflix and Amazon Prime and all that, they're all really kind of hungry for the latest and greatest and the new content. So
absolutely.
They're all going to jump on these things that are in the news and that are interesting, and they think that people will want to watch.
Right. And it's interesting. I'm wondering how much they're going to educate people watching, because every time I find a biological parent, the first thing they say is, "How did you find me?" And I say DNA, and they say, "But I didn't test."
Right.
And then I have to explain to them, you don't have to have tested.
Right.
You know, just a second cousin could have tested, or even further. So, and most people have no idea that that's a possibility.
But I understand that reaction. You know, you think, "Oh, wait a minute. How did you get my DNA?" Would be my first thought, right? Like, what did you do? Did you steal, my straw out of the garbage? Which is what they've done.
Which is what they've done to catch the bad guys.
Yeah. I just picture, because Disney is starting their own streaming service as well. Like,
are they?
Yeah, and DNA's in the news. Maybe they'll do one like the DNA of Mickey Mouse. He's actually related to Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, which is true, actually, people. Look it up. Before Walt Disney drew Mickey Mouse, he drew
a rabbit?
He drew Oswald the Lucky Rabbit,
of course
who
you
looks
know this.
Suspiciously like Mickey Mouse, but Disney
with
lost
much
the rights.
longer ears.
Yes, exactly.
But he's upright.
Mickey Mouse finds out he was really a rabbit. He's going to have to rethink his whole life.
Would that be a step up or a step down, do you think?
I have no idea what
rodents go.
The hierarchy in the rodentia.
Okay, moving on.
Yes.
All right. So this is not a political podcast.
It isn't? Oh, no, of course not.
No, it is not a political podcast, and we don't talk about politics, or we try to avoid politics. However, the Elizabeth Warren DNA test has to be talked about.
Okay.
Don't be afraid, because I'm just going to tell the facts.
Alternative facts? Let's tell those.
Let's not talk about politics. Okay, so here is the story as it played out. So Warren's family had lore, as a lot of families do, talking about a great-grandmother having Cherokee heritage. There was a story that her mother told her about her great-grandmother, I believe, that her fiancé's family wasn't going to let her marry their son because she had Cherokee lineage, and that was something that they didn't approve of. Right. So they eloped.
Yeah.
So that was the story in the family.
Okay.
So it's in her head. While she was still living in Oklahoma, there was a recipe book that featured Native American. It was called the Native American Cookbook, and I think a friend of hers probably published it. And so she put a recipe in there, and then identified as Cherokee.
Okay.
Like Cherokee heritage, but she's like, well, this is how I'm relevant to this cookbook.
Right.
While she was at Harvard, I believe it was Harvard, she listed herself in while she was at Harvard Law, she listed herself in the directory of Harvard Law School as being part Cherokee.
Okay.
That was after she was already accepted there. And she never mentioned any kind of Native American ancestry in any educational or work applications. In fact, the institutions that she's attended and or worked for have issued statements saying that she was never admitted or hired based on any sort of ethnicity and was accepted on her own merit.
But she didn't use it to get in.
Right. It was a story that she told people, and it was kind of fun and cool.
Like my friend I told you about who got into Harvard using his 1/32
I wonder if that's
blood
true.
Of Native American.
I think we need to go back and interview him.
I think we need to go to Elizabeth Warren and rub some poison ivy on her and see if she's if it takes.
Call back.
All right, people. Just in case you haven't been listening to this podcast, my friend who got into law school, or got into Harvard, not law school, got into Harvard because he said and claims and still claims that he has Native American blood, said that one of the reasons he thinks he can prove that he's Native American is that he's immune to poison ivy or poison oak. So he can rub it all over himself and it doesn't affect him.
Okay.
So that's why I said that I don't mean an attack on Elizabeth Warren in any way.
No. All right. This became an issue in 2012 in a 2012 Senate run in which Warren's opponent accused her of claiming to be a person of color and said, looking at her, she is clearly not. So that wasn't, she had to defend herself then even. But then it blew over and whatever. And she obviously got in because she's a senator.
Right.
The current person living in the White House decided to dig up the old story. And in order to ridicule and belittle her, in a public rally, he offered her $1 million to her favorite charity if she took a DNA test and proved that she was an Indian, which is an offensive way to say that. But the fact is she did not take a consumer DNA test.
Okay.
So it wasn't some algorithm with millions of people in it, just,
Well, what kind of DNA test did she take then?
Well, she was tested by Carlos Bustamante, who is a Stanford University professor and MacArthur genius. He's very highly lauded in the genetics field. And so it was far more depth and individual than what would be done through a DNA algorithm. He went like chromosome by chromosome.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right.
So he said that Warren's test results show the vast majority of her ancestry is European, but that the results strongly support the existence of an unadmixed Native American ancestor, likely 6 to 10 generations back. Now, unadmixed basically means it's a chunk of DNA that goes from person to person to person and doesn't change its admixture. And so it's a chunk.
Does that happen a lot?
Yes.
Wow,
yeah,
that's
it
interesting.
Does.
Okay.
Yeah. So that tells you that there definitely was Native American in there. Can't tell you what tribe and what have you. So Cece Moore, my friend Cece, she made all of the genetic genealogy sites went off last week because it instantly became political, and whatever side you're on is going to be. So, and in fact, somebody asked to post it on our page, and I said, yes, go ahead unless it gets political. And of course it got political, so I had to delete it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing how quickly it can devolve. Yeah.
Yeah, not a good idea.
But Elizabeth Warren shouldn't have gone on that press conference and saying the colors of the wind. I really think that was probably inappropriate.
I got nothing. Okay.
That's from the movie Pocahontas, people. I'm making a joke.
So Cece on her page, she had to shut down commenting as well, but she also made a statement that I actually put on our Facebook group. And she said, in this case, the genetic evidence is there to support Warren having distant Native American ancestry. I am defending Dr. Bustamante from questions of his credibility because he has earned that science is science and DNA does not lie.
There you go.
There you go. Now, a lot of people have been citing some of Native American spokespeople coming out in protest of this DNA evidence. There's several reasons for that. A lot of the tribes, well, this came from Wheaton Kelly, who is another genetic genealogist on one of the pages, and she said, I've been contacted on more than one occasion about Native Americans with tribal affiliation concerned about privacy regarding their own DNA testing. Tribes want to set their own criteria for membership. I'm relatively sure that if there was more testing at the tribal level, there would be more surprises. Basically, from what I understand, the Native American community doesn't believe in DNA testing.
Okay.
And if you want to be affiliated with their tribe, they have to accept you and you have to reach out to them, which Elizabeth Warren hasn't done, but she's not trying to say she's Native American.
Right.
So, there's obviously some mixed signals here.
Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, the whole Native American thing is something that was dug up by someone else. She hasn't gone out and...
No, she's never used it in politically,
right.
ever.
Although you can argue that she was using it politically here in that she was trying to say, look, it's true.
Well, yeah, and some would argue that she probably shouldn't have done that because she's feeding right into the monster.
It's true because what she's saying is, I'm going to refute what you're saying and prove something that's true. But by playing the game, she's getting caught up in it.
Yes,
and
I agree.
Whenever you get caught up in identity politics, it's a losing game.
Yes.
Because one thing I know about pretty much every group, and whether that's a social group, an ethnic group, nobody wants anyone else to be part of your club once you're in it.
Interesting.
It's like, I got in, but now no one else can. And it's like any kind of social club that, is supposed to be exclusive. People want to get in it, but once they get in it, there's not so welcoming to people who want to come in it. Even with Native Americans, there is a sort of an elitist, whether you are a Cherokee or you're a different from a different tribe.
Right. It's a whole separate thing.
Yeah. So you can't just be
can't even pretend
we're
to
Native
understand.
Americans. No, but this tribe is more elite than this other tribe.
Right.
And you have to have this much blood to be
Yes.
in this tribe. And of course, some of it is cultural and some of it is financial because some of the tribes that have the casinos that are near population centers are
right.
People want to say, oh well, I'm part of that tribe and therefore I want to share in that. So
right.
there's
I've heard that.
Whatever the reason, whether it be something social or something financial, that's my belief system.
Mm-hmm. Dismount soapbox.
Thank you. It's very slippery up here. It's a slippery soapbox.
A slippery slope box. Okay. So in general, the Native American community accepts people into their tribe, not the other way around.
Okay,
That's it. And the only thing that I really take away from this is that the man who lives in the White House owes $1 million to somebody's favorite charity.
Oh, good luck getting that paid.
Right.
But I really haven't heard much about the Native Americans who are upset with Elizabeth Warren. I have not really read about that.
Yeah, well, people who are way in it, of course, want to.
Yeah, but I'm always suspect when something like this hits the zeitgeist because, it seems so unimportant, to the world as far as what's going on that we can all spend headlines.
Certain people make it important to the world,
right.
and which is very unfortunate.
Right.
Anyway, and on that note...
Taking a break?
Yes, please.
Okay. If you're enjoying Cutoff Jeans, please subscribe, rate, and review.
Okay, we're back.
Welcome back.
You too.
It's nice to see you again, Julie.
You too, Richard.
It's been all of 5 minutes.
Yes. And we actually never stop talking to each other, so it's a ruse, everyone.
I just turn on the recording, whenever when we feel like it. We just talk all day.
All right, so guess what we're going to talk about today?
DNA?
Well, sure. But we are once again revisiting mirror trees.
Oh my God, mirror, mirror on my tree.
Revisiting mirror trees versus quick and dirty trees, part Trois.
Oh my God! Wait, I don't know if I remember quick and dirty trees.
I touched on them before,
Okay.
but when I think I just confused myself the more I talked about it. So
Okay.
I decided there needs to be clarification. And there was actually somebody in the group actually wrote, "What's a mirror tree? What am I missing? I still can't do it." So I'm going to break it down again.
Oh, great. Okay.
Or I'm going to break down the difference again.
Right.
All right.
But they can also go back and listen to the few
Episode 5.
Oh, episode 5. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm glad you remember.
I don't. Somebody else did, though, on the Facebook page. A mirror versus quick and dirty.
Yes.
Boom. A quick and dirty tree, by definition, if you can do that, is an unverified tree built quickly for clues, like a common ancestor or location.
Okay.
So say you have a tree or you have a match and it's relatively close and they have a bunch of people on there, but not very many and certainly no names you recognize.
All right.
You're going to go and pick somebody that is not living and put him and his parents in a tree, start a new tree. And then you will get hints almost immediately if it's on other trees. And then you can build it up and build it back and until you see a name that maybe you recognize.
Why is it that it can't be on your tree and then have those hints happen? Like why? I mean, I understand you just said you moved them to their own tree.
Because you don't want to put them on your tree until you know how they're connected. I mean, you could do it as a loose limb,
right?
As an unconnected limb, but you can't see it unless you look for it.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
But by starting their own tree, you'll see.
Right. And it's something that when you're done, you can delete it.
Right. But
And
then
you can also...
But then you found that common name or that common ancestor.
Right. If you see a name that's familiar, then all of a sudden you'll just zero in on that and you can either find that's the connection or it's not.
Right. Okay. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then once you realize it is a connection, that's when you go back and verify it.
Okay.
If you're going to put it on your tree.
So that's the quick and dirty
That's
tree.
the quick and dirty tree. And to help you with that, you should click on the shared matches to look for similar surnames so that you know they're shared matches anyway.
Okay.
But those similar surnames will certainly tell you what surname you're also connected to. And also, before you do it, it helps to sort your matches into clusters by either color coding them with Blaine Bettinger's Chrome extension that I talked about a few weeks ago, or the leads method, which is something that somebody developed. I don't know how to use it either, by the way. So I do it by hand.
Oh my!
And here's how I do it.
She does DNA the old-fashioned way,
do.
by hand.
By hand.
She had to walk 10 miles through the snow to get that DNA result.
Uphill both ways. All right. So what you want to do is, this is for second and third cousins, to cluster them together so you know which line they belong to. Mm-hmm. You're going to list them all in the same order that they're listed until you get to the last third cousin.
Okay.
On just a piece of paper. Then you're going to draw 4 to 6 vertical columns to the right of those names. And you're going to start with the top name on the list. And you're going to assign that person a color. So in the box next to him, you're going to give him a color. Then you're going to click on shared matches. And then all the shared matches, in order that they're listed, you're going to go down your list and give them that color as well.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes. Then when
it's easy to see.
Yes, exactly. Then when you get to the end, you're going to go up to your on your page and go up to the next highest person that doesn't have a color yet. And you're going to click on them. Assign a new color to them. Click on their shared matches and give all those people that color. The object of it is to get at least 4 distinct lines.
Okay.
And theoretically, you're looking for 4 separate grandparent lines or great-grandparent lines.
All right.
And sometimes you get some closer ones will get more than one because they're closely related and they share great-grandparents or something. But anyway, and then you have a visual of your 4 separate lines and who to look at when you're looking at somebody, you can look at the other.
Well, that sounds a lot easier than just going by names, because names change and people get
Exactly.
married and there's married names.
Exactly.
And, that kind of thing. So looking at a color and you can just look at it and go, oh.
Yeah, it's just a quick visual
Yeah.
to know, well, they're obviously.
She's
yes.
blue, they're red,
Yep.
she's green, yes.
Yes. Now you have visually clustered your matches to refer to when building quick and dirty or mirror trees. Okay. Another thing to do while you're doing that is ask your DNA matches to share their DNA results with you. Not everybody wants to do that. Not everybody responds. We all know that. But if they do and they're willing to do it, it's very easy. You can tell them to go to their settings on the upper right of their main DNA page, which is the DNA results summary. Click on that. It looks like a cog. On the next page, you're just going to scroll down to DNA result access. Type in the email or username and click send.
Okay.
And that's it. And whoever wants to look at yours, or, they're going to send it to you. So, and there's 3 levels of sharing that they can give you, which is viewer, collaborator, or manager.
Okay.
Obviously, I think it speaks for itself. Manager is, for somebody like me, the most important, because that way I can make notes on their matches,
Right.
and I can download raw data as long as they give me permission to upload to GEDmatch, and so on and so forth.
Right. I would think, though, not a lot of people would want to give you manager. Not you. I just
Yes.
mean the
Yeah, you
collective
don't,
you.
and you certainly don't want to do it for a stranger who doesn't tell you what they're going to do with it.
No, and the other part is you have control of what you're looking at. You don't want to suddenly look at it and see all these notes and things that perhaps aren't meaningful
Right,
to
although
you.
they're very helpful for a lot of people.
Right. If the person
Cares.
No, but if the person who's making the notes knows what they're doing.
Yes. Yeah, it would be annoying if they just wanted to look at it and just make fun little
like,
comments.
Oh, that woman, she was a terrible person. I know she was your great grandmother's cousin, but she was just awful.
Oh, and the reason that you want to look at other people's DNA results is that you can see how they match your matches in common. If they match them closely or more, you might see that this match is actually that person's brother.
Okay, but without that, without being shared, what do you see? Because you do get these shaky leaf matches and things like that, right? That are just automatic. Like once you put something.
You get shared ancestors.
Shared ancestors.
Hints if people have trees and that are connected to their DNA.
Okay, gotcha.
Anyway.
All right.
So you can do several branches on one tree of a mirror tree. So you don't every time, or not a mirror tree, a quick and dirty tree, or a mirror tree. So you don't have to go to a whole new tree every time you do it, so that you have this huge list of trees, which I have anyway, by the way. But you can start another branch, and there's 2 ways to do it. They're called floating branches.
All right. You mentioned that earlier, floating branch. Yes.
You know what? I'm wondering if I should. You know what? I'm gonna explain that next week in a separate.
Okay. It's too big
yes.
a topic.
Yeah, it'll go on too long, and I really want to break it down.
Okay.
Okay, so mirror trees. Basically, a mirror tree is where you attach your DNA to the match that you based the tree on. Okay?
All right.
You don't on the quick and dirty trees.
All right.
They are strictly for hints.
Okay.
Okay. It's best, mirror trees are best for people looking for immediate relatives, adoptees, NPEs, donor conceived people. And I will say, it is phasing out, I believe. I've heard that more and more. And I think it's because in the last year or 2, there has been such an influx of new users on Ancestry.
Right.
That I think the algorithm is slowing down, and it gets bogged down when people keep disconnecting their DNA and connecting it to somebody else.
Okay.
And I think maybe that's why it's not working as well. And also, just a lot less people have trees. You're not going to get shared ancestor hints if they don't have a tree. Even if they do have a shared ancestor, if they don't have a tree. Another trick is if they say... if you look at your matches, if they say private tree, obviously they have a tree, but you have to ask them to see it. A lot of times they won't let you see it anyway. And sometimes they say no tree, which literally means there's nothing you can see. And they also have unconnected tree. Now, an unconnected tree usually means if you click on them, it'll give you trees that it has but have not connected their DNA to. So you can look at that and get your clues from that. You can still build a quick and dirty tree off of those hints, the people on that, off of just one person. So if you're doing a quick and dirty tree, you're relying on the green ghost clues, what I call the green ghost clues. They are these pop-ups that say potential father, potential mother when you put somebody in the tree.
Okay.
So they're like, oh, we've heard of this person before. They're on this tree, and it's like a hint, only it's a pop-up that says potential. You click on that person and you look, and again, as you're just looking for clues, you don't have to verify anything, but you should click on it on family to make sure the person that is already on your tree is one of their children.
Okay.
And go ahead and add them, usually, unless they're in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Okay.
But that's Ancestry doing it for you.
All right.
That's the algorithm doing it for you. You can start a quick and dirty tree with one, maybe two people, and if there are other trees with those people in it, you're going to get the hints, and it's way quicker than having to do it manually.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. I hope that clarified it a little more. The main difference between quick and dirty and mirror trees is the DNA factor. You connect DNA to mirror trees, and you should only really do that if you're looking for immediate relatives for it to work. And again, it doesn't seem to be working as well as it did when I found my father. So, and I believe it's because of 10 million users.
Right. The more popular it gets, the more it has to, the more computing power it needs.
It's harder to use those tricks
right.
too.
Yeah. But yet it should make it more accurate because of the more people, right? Because now there's a bigger pool.
If they have more, yes, but if they have more trees, I think it makes the ethnicity more accurate, definitely.
Okay.
But if only everybody had trees, we literally would all know everything about ourselves if we wanted to.
At least who's in our family tree.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay. Well, that makes sense.
Yep. So let's take a break.
Thank you for listening to Cutoff Genes, the new podcast starring Julie Dixon Jackson.
And we're back.
Hello.
Hello. Okay, so something I forgot to mention in the quick and dirty / mirror tree extravaganza.
Oh, the trees, yes.
Yes, the trees that I wanted to, in case, I've got a feeling people's heads are spinning right now.
What, is that because mine's turning around like Linda Blair's?
It's because your
in
eyes
The
are
Exorcist?
glazed over right now.
And it's not just because it's Halloween or close to Halloween.
So, guys, I understand the visual aspect of this, and I learned visually as well, as I already said. There's several tutorials about this online. I recommend going to Blaine Bettinger's YouTube channel.
Okay.
He has tons and tons of these, and there's one specifically about this. And he provides visuals, and you can play it over and over and over again.
So he actually shows you on like that website
exactly
how
what
to
it
do
looks like.
Oh, see,
precisely.
Because I understood intellectually what you were saying, but I am not on the site, so I can't see what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Although when you talk about the colors, my head goes into, oh, that sounds pretty.
Oh, pretty.
Pretty. Let's put this. I think she's more of a pink.
I'm going to introduce you to a new segment, which is Listener Stories.
Ooh, I like that.
Yay!
Yeah, everybody's got good stories.
Oh my God, everybody's got a story, and every one of them is fantastic.
I
It's
love
so
a good
great.
story. Yeah.
And I'm trying to come up with a name.
Story time with Julie.
Yay!
I like story time with Julie.
Boom. Story time with Julie and a listener and someone with a story. All right. So this is Pattie O'Donnell, who is a listener and reached out to me. Thank you so much, Pattie. She's a delight. And we did a phone interview that went on for quite a while. So we're going to break it up. So this is going to be an ongoing story for 3 or 4 weeks.
Oh, I love that. It's cereal. It's like cereal.
It's a cereal. It's like a cereal, like mine.
Captain Crunch.
So here we go. Here comes Pattie. Enjoy it, and I'll see you on the other side. Okay, I have on the line Pattie O'Donnell, a lovely listener who has volunteered to let me call her and tell her story over the air, and I'm so happy to have her. Thank you, Pattie.
Well, thank you. This is really fun.
Okay, so let's hear your story, starting from the beginning. Tell us about it.
Okay, so I guess we start when I was born, which was at a Catholic hospital, and then I was transferred to an associated orphanage, which they literally called the Home for Wayward Girls.
Like in the movies.
Yeah, exactly. But my birth mother told me she never held me or saw me, and that was her choice. So that's kind of sad. But
it is sad.
I was there for 2 months, and then my adoptive mom always told me the nuns fussed over me because I was sick, but I don't know if that's true. And how much time really could any of the nuns ever spend with us?
Exactly.
You know, and it's probably likely I was just screaming a lot.
Yeah, I've thought about that too, and it's because we were both in the home for 2 months, right?
Yeah, and I feel bad for baby Julie and baby Pattie. Like they were sad; they wanted their mothers.
Yeah, they just wanted somebody. They wanted contact. They wanted to not feel invisible.
Not be in a home in a row of cribs. I've seen the pictures.
Ugh, yeah, me too. Okay.
Anyway. So then we go forward in the 80s. For a very short time, Pennsylvania made some original birth certificates available. And my adoptive mom, and we fought over everything. But she just went ahead and ordered the original birth certificates for my brother and I because she said she was worried that they were going to close the records again, which they did. But God bless her. She was really supportive. I had helped her with some genealogy work. So.
Right.
Her attitude was she didn't understand why anybody wouldn't want to know where they came from. So that was a big help.
Right. So she didn't feel threatened at all.
No, not at all.
That's great.
I got my non-identifying information from Catholic Charities, and it was nothing. It just said my birth mother was Catholic. She'd gone to Catholic high school. She worked at a hospital. Average height, average weight, brown hair, green eyes. And they said she had a moon face. Like, who doesn't have a moon face when they're ready to deliver? Like,
I know I did.
Yeah. What is that?
That's funny.
And then they also said she had not stayed with them. Like, it wasn't a girls that went away thing. She had just showed up and had not gotten her prenatal care from them. And it sounded kind of irritated. Like, well, she should have.
Yeah,
and then
she's
they
not
said
one of us.
that. Yeah. And then they said my father was a married doctor of English-Irish extraction with 3 kids. So that's it. That's all they had. So, but since I had my original birth certificates, that had her name, Joanne Connors, and then my name was Susan Connors, and no birth father. So I used to take vacations, and I would go to the State Historical Society. I'd go to the State Library at the Capitol, anything to look for somebody by that name who had graduated from any Catholic high school in the area. And I spent weekends. I spent vacation days, everything, going through listings. I went to the university library to look for doctors who might match my ethnicity. I mean, who had maybe done a residency or fellowship at local hospitals.
Right.
And I finally just concluded that there is no person named Joanne Connors and that I was going to have to go through Catholic Charities.
Okay.
And they had a mediated reunion process, and I was really I'm not good with authority, and I didn't like that.
Yeah, I had a problem with that too. I mean, I understand why they do it, but it was weird to have this person be holding this envelope in front of me, and she was the one who got to decide whether or not I could have it. That it was about me.
It's a very frustrating situation. But I have to say, I was really surprised. Like, everybody was really kind and easy to talk to. And they finally called me back after a lot of waiting, and they said my birth mother didn't want any contact. But they persuaded her to at least meet me once anonymously at the offices of Catholic Charities in Philadelphia. So
wait, anonymously? Was she going to be behind a screen?
No. Just that I wouldn't have her name.
Or put a bag over her head or something.
No, but it was like that long-lost families thing where you're sitting in a room and then they bring her in. I'm not kidding.
God, that's uncomfortable. Okay.
It was.
Yeah.
It was really weird.
Yeah.
I thought it was weird.
Yeah.
So they bring her in, and then they left, and the first thing she said to me was, "You're so dark." And I am really fair-skinned, but I have brown hair and brown eyes. And I was like, what? Because the first thing that people say when they meet me is, "You're so tall," because I'm almost 6 foot.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask her, why did she, I've never asked her, but I'm going to. Why did she say that?
Yeah, I wonder what that meant. And she said she didn't see you when you were born, so she wouldn't know if you were fair-haired when you were born.
Right. And then she reaches out, touches my face, and goes, "You have my mother's dark circles."
Oh, God. Strike two, Mom.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Grandma. Yay.
Wow.
And then the mediator, this is Catholic Charities, so they're cool with this. The mediator says, "Why don't you go across the street and have a glass of wine?" And that's what we did. We went to a hotel across the street that had a little bar and restaurant and sat and had wine and bar snacks, and we talked. And I said, I said what we all say, right? We all have the same little script. Thank you. I understand why somebody back in the 60s couldn't keep a baby. I don't resent you. I don't hate you. Blah, 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 blah.
Right. Yes.
So
we all say that.
Yeah. It's amazing how often that's what people have the same thing. But, in general, most of us aren't angry, and we are thankful. So
absolutely. And I've talked about this before. You can feel both ways. You can love your family who raised you, but you can have an overwhelming desire or need to know where you came from. There's, one does not discount the other.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And then she told me a little about herself, and she had that sheltered Catholic upbringing. Now, her father had been an abusive, raging alcoholic, and that was a motif for her life. That dominated her life. She was trying, at the time that she got pregnant, she was trying to move her mother and her brother and sister to her house because she was out in the working world at this point.
How old was she?
She was 22 or 24, somewhere in there. She wasn't a teenager.
Right, okay.
So what she did is she stopped eating, hid the pregnancy, started smoking to lose weight, and continued to work at her hospital job.
Now, did you have any, were you a sickly baby?
Yes, I was.
Oh, interesting. I wonder if it's because you lacked some nutrients.
Well, she said to me later, she goes, "I took a prenatal vitamin every day just for you." And I'm thinking, yeah, that's all you did. That's all you took. Because she didn't gain an ounce. Her best friend saw her for 8 months and said she never saw a thing.
That's crazy. I don't understand that at all. But she tall?
Did it. No, medium. Well, it's all, you would think so. I don't. She was about 5'6", 5'7".
Well, yeah, to me that's tall.
Yeah, and to me, being 6 foot, that's not that tall.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, because normally most tall women, when they're pregnant, that I know, show way less than little. Oh,
and that might have helped. She was also very thin at the time.
Okay, wow.
So, and she wore a lab coat at work, so that helped.
Sure, that helps. Yeah.
Yeah. So she said, "Call me Mimi." Since that's what her nieces called her. She helped raise her nieces, and they called her Mimi. And she did not tell me her last name.
Okay. Was her first name Susan? Was her real first name Susan?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Completely.
No, and her name wasn't Joanne. No, it wasn't anything. That was completely
you were
made
Susan.
Up.
That's right.
Completely made up.
Okay.
So we talked. We shared interests. We didn't look alike, but we both read a lot. We liked to sit at the beach or in a pool reading when all of our friends were gabbing. She laughs, like she uses humor to cope with life, and we both have really loud, obnoxious laughs, and we're both klutzes and can't sing.
Okay, 2 out of 3 is like me.
There you go. And then rush hour is coming, so we both said, "Oh, well, we better get out of here." And I gave her my business card, and I said, "Listen, you call me if you want to have any kind of a continuing relationship." And she made no promises.
Okay.
And then at work, I got on the internet the next day. It was brand new internet. It was like 1996 dial-up,
Sure.
And I stalked her because what do? We
stalk.
We're stalkers. And I found her workplace, and I found her name because based on what she told me she did, I figured out who she was at her work.
Oh, so you knew her last name by now. You figured that out.
Online, I figured out her last name. I got her home address. I got her phone number. I got the whole works. But I did not use it. I just sat on it for 2 or 3 months.
Okay.
And it started to eat at me because, like, when she relinquished me, she didn't do that to me personally, right? But at this point, she was judging who she met. So it was personal.
Yes.
I thought.
Yeah.
And
that makes sense.
Right. So I started getting rapid heartbeat. I was sweating, shaking, and I went to a brand new doctor, and the doctor said I was bipolar. And she also said that it was a bad idea to look for my birth parents. And she had an intern there with her, and she turns to the kid and goes, "See, this is why adoptees should not look for their birth parents."
Was she a psychiatrist?
No, she was a GP.
Oh, my Lord. Okay.
Yeah, so that was...
Go back a little bit. That's crazy.
Yeah.
When did this develop slowly over time? In other words, were you okay the first few days after, and then it just started getting worse and worse, just out of curiosity? Okay.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Yeah. The longer it went on, the worse I got.
Yeah.
So I went to dinner that night with some girlfriends, and I'm like, I'm mortified, but the doctor said I was bipolar. And the girls were like, well, what were the symptoms? And I told them, and they said, Pattie, that's a panic attack. You're having panic attacks. And they had both been, to the ER for them. They knew what panic attacks were, and I was having panic attacks.
Right.
But she finally called, and we then had the stereotypical. It's sad how much these stories fall into patterns.
Yeah.
We had the stereotypical honeymoon phase. We went to lunch, we went to dinner, we went to an art exhibit in D.C. I went to her house because she lived alone. And she said she'd never married because she would have to tell what she'd done to any man that she might marry, and then he could throw that back at her because she'd seen it happen to somebody at work who gave up a baby, and then the husband threw it back in her face.
Oh. I mean, way to make you feel like the ultimate mistake.
Exactly. Exactly.
They don't. It's weird how sometimes they don't see us as humans, as what I mean.
Yeah. Well, at the time, now I give her credit. She has since said to me, apropos nothing. She said, "I just want you to know, I don't think of you as a mistake. You're a wonderful person, and I love you."
Okay.
So I think that's dear, but that doesn't mean she doesn't refer to me as a mistake in conversation.
Absolutely. Yes.
So she holds both of those in her head. But anyway, and she had also helped raise her nieces. And she was also telling me about her family, her nieces, and her nutty religious sister. And we had a nice relationship, and it kind of slowly faded over time. I heard from her less and less. And then by the early 2000s, not even Christmas cards. So I just assumed, you know what? My existence causes her pain, and I just thought, she can't handle it, and she had to stop contact, so I'm going to live with that.
Yeah.
But I called her every few years. But I could never get through to her. So I'd leave a message on the answering machine, and if anybody else answered, or on the machine, I'd just say, "It's Pattie from work. I'm just checking in."
Right.
But she never called me back, and I kept calling. And when I say kept calling, I'm talking every 2-3 years. This is not harassment.
Yeah.
Because first of all, she never gave me a photo of her. She never told me who my father was, but mostly I had no way of finding out if she died or was sick or was in trouble.
Right.
And so she just kind of left me hanging out there.
Oh, okay. For me, and it's not, again, I'm not anti-adoption. But I can't understand how somebody could just ignore somebody that they gave birth to.
I just think she was in so much pain and so much shame. I just think my very existence just brought up all these feelings of shame and pain. And
yeah, that whole shame thing must be really deep ingrained in those women from the 60s, because it's
absolutely.
It's so hard for me to wrap my head around, something like that. So I guess I can't judge because I haven't been in that position. I've been the opposite.
Right,
so,
right. And it's completely different. It's not completely, but it's different now.
Yes,
I
definitely.
think. Yeah. So, but that was before DNA. So we also, that I was kind of stuck, but then all of a sudden there was 23andMe.
Boom.
Boom.
Okay, that's the end of part 1. What do you think?
Oh my God. Are we really going to end there? God.
As is our way.
You always make me wait.
I'm so sorry. But yes, so the next part of the interview is going to be on next week's episode.
Oh, God. I love that you listeners out there are sending us or getting in touch with Julie about your stories because they're so interesting and everybody's got a different story and yet I find them all fascinating.
Yeah.
So
they're all fascinating. I love hearing them, you guys. Keep them coming.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's great and I love talking to you guys because you get me. You really get me.
Oh, thank you, Sally Field.
Thank you. Yes. All right. So that's the end of the big show. Rich, tell them about yourself.
I am Richard Castle. I am a songwriter and producer, apparently, and I have a website, richardcastle.com, and you can follow me on Twitter at Castle Songs.
Boom. I am Julie Dixon Jackson on Twitter. I am at Jules Jackson with 2 O's. The podcast on Twitter is at Cutoff Jeans Podcast. We have a Facebook group, Cutoff Jeans Podcast is what it's called. Come on in. The water's fine. It's really fun, you guys.
It's a really good group of people.
It's a great group of people. And what else? Oh, you can send me a direct email if you like, julesjackson@cutoffjeans.com.
And what else do you have to tell us, Julie, that you tell us every week?
Oh, Rich.
What?
The truth is in your jeans.